We're just going to be starting with the performance ground transfers. And if you have something to sort of clean up the floor a little bit, we have a very dirty floor here.
Filthy.
You can put that down to help. And Cheryl's going to make some comments about the foam.
Yeah, when we're first working with people, again, it's much the same as we were speaking to the transfer from a level surface. You're going to be helping you may be providing a lot of support until you know how the person can do. However, if you're working with someone who is experienced and you're testing them, you may just be asking them, can you get from your chair to the ground and back up again? And they may say yes. So depending on what people's experiences are and if they have any skin issues, so if they have any skin breakdown, also known as pressure injuries or pressure ulcers, bed sores, whatever, you want to make sure that you're not transferring them onto the hard ground. So often we'll start by just having some sort of foam for them to be landing on, just for protection of their skin. There's lots of many ways to get down and to get back depending on the nature of your wheelchair use. We'll just start with one and then we can go from there. Essentially, it's much the same principles as a level transfer. It's just that I'm dropping down. So again, I'm going to get to the front of my chair. I'm going to move my wheels to the front so that I won't tip out. Then I'm going to get my feet on the ground and get over as close as I can. So reducing the space, same as we did on the transfer. Head's going to go down, bottom's going to go up, same as last time. Tuck my feet in as much as possible. And then when I'm ready to go, I use my arms and then lower myself down. So it really has to be your arms that's lowering you. You shouldn't just be flopping down bottom first for skin protection reasons.
The spotter in the direction of the movement.
Yeah. And depending on experience level, that spotter might be behind the person, just guiding their trunk so that if they do start to drop, you can slow that down so you don't have sitting bones hitting the ground really hard.
Now to get back in, which is also part of the skill, we frequently will train people to use their seat cushion instead of the mat or on top of the mat, depends on whether we're training or testing. Yeah. But for testing purposes, so they'd have to come up with it on their own.
Yeah, so sometimes people will be on the ground because they've fallen. Sometimes people will be intentionally on the ground, but be using their cushion to move around the ground to protect their bottom. So by taking the cushion off, I'm lowering the height that I have to get my bottom back onto. Also, at the same time, I'm raising the ground level. So it's sort of the cushion times two. So making this lower, making this higher. There's lots of different ways to get in depending on the situation. If there's a very wide front to the chair, sometimes people can also bring their casters forward and get onto the foot plate first and bring themselves up. Other times that's not possible. So they may be doing sort of a tricep dip where they're pushing up and extending. If that's not the case, then I'm going to get my cushion nice and close, bring my hands in, and then again, going to do that dip with my head forward and my head forward and my bottom up, and then get part way in and then sort myself out after that. I'll have to do another transfer to get that cushion underneath me. But as a starting point of getting from the ground back up, that's one way that people may do that. I'll demonstrate a couple
from
more
the
ways.
Point of view of the test, wheelchair skills test, we don't require that people get their cushion back under them because, as I say, this may be in relationship to a fall. We're all already assessing transfers in another skill. So, good. Did you want any others you want to demonstrate?
Absolutely.
Because we're going to go to the fall practice for that one.
Yeah, with the other, maybe, yeah. Breaks wise, maybe the other chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just do a couple quick little demos because people were talking about different populations. When we're looking at people who may have spina bifida and have partial movement or cerebral palsy, there's sort of more of a crossover that people tend to use. Again, you want to bring your feet nice and close so you're not pulling them from a distance, but I'm pretty much going to go up sideways and try not to knock my microphone off. So I'm going to put my hand up across and drag my trunk up. And then once I get up a little bit there, I'm going to keep going. So once I get my hip up there, are we on, Dee? Can you hear me? Sorry, not like that. How about now? Am I back? Okay, great. So we knew this would happen. I'm very flaily. There was no safe place to put it. So once my hip is up, then I'm going to kind of just squirm to get myself sorted all the way back. So I'm using my arms for most of it and then shimming myself for all of it really, and shimming myself back. There's other methods for stroke or one limb. There's lots of different ways, but if you have specific questions, we can do that. But I don't want to spend the whole rest of the time flopping
Yeah.
on the floor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So this is a good, in terms of talking about getting to the ground, it kind of raises the point about falling unintentionally. And so fall practice is not really very safe in the forward or sideways direction, but it can be done safely in the rear direction. So we're going to demonstrate that now. We have our 10-centimeter curb here. We've got a thick gym mat on top. And again, cleanliness can be an issue. So just putting a sheet over top of that. Do my nursing corners.
Yes, military corners.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Cheryl's going to demonstrate for you. You want to do the proper way or the improper way first? Improper way, yeah.
Improper, sure.
So
I'm good
this
at that.
is what not to do.
Do you want to speak to it or just let me go?
So she's starting with the chair for demonstration purposes. She's starting with the chair close to the object, leaning up against it if she wishes to. And then when she falls backwards, she's going to let her hands go. You'll
And
see
you'll
what
s-
happens
yeah.
there.
So what not to do? There we go.
And that's why not to do it. Is that when your center of gravity gets behind the axis of the rear wheel, as your body drops to the floor, the chair squirts forward. It's called submarining.
So you can see that all I did was let the chair go. I didn't have to push the wheels. That's how quickly it happens. And is it back? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll just repeat that I didn't have to push my wheels. It was just me not grabbing the wheels that causes the chair to submarine that far away. So that's why we practice falling, because a lot of the time people's instinct is to put their hands out. And if you do that in a manual chair, that's what happens. So we practice not doing that and grabbing your wheels over and over again. And that's the reason why.
Now, the safe way, Cher's to demonstrate that, she's going to start with the rear wheels a little bit away from what she's going to land on. And so when she falls backwards, she holds on with her hands. You see, everything's much slower and more controlled as she drops down to the lower level.
Yeah, and I didn't pull back or anything. I just didn't let go.
She's demonstrating how you get back
No,
up again
she's
there.
She will. There we go.
We'll talk our way through that in a second.
Yes, I'll do it a couple times, I'm sure.
So if you're teaching somebody to get up from being in the chair and lying on the ground, you can start them part way up, raise the ground while you're doing the training from the training perspective, as Cher's just done there. She's going to do this again. For spotting this, you're spotting from in front because you're really trying to prevent the submarining if the person panics and lets go with both hands.
And when we train this, we often train it before people can do a wheelie. So you may actually be the one getting them into that tipped position, because often it comes before that phase of knowledge. So just because I'm doing it myself, I'm just going back to see where the mat is, coming a little bit forward. So that's what I'd be doing if I was setting someone else up, and then just having them hold the wheels. You can see how slowly that happens. To get back up again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock one brake, one or the other, my wheel locks, picking this side here. Then I'm going to pull myself forward until I can get my hand far behind me. Once it's behind, I grab the opposite wheel and roll it backwards to get it underneath me.
I know this looks very difficult, but it's actually, people are surprised when they do it in our workshops. Most people can do it on the first attempt, but obviously getting it to lower and lower and on the ground is something you have to have long enough arms and enough agility to be able to do that particular skill of getting from the ground back up.
Yeah, there's a threshold for if the chair is too high or if your arms are too short, that it's pretty challenging to do and sometimes not
Any questions
possible.
on that?